Welcome back to Call Me By Your Name, Book to Script to Screen. In the first part of this video, we looked at how it came about that a novel that was set in seaside Liguria on the Italian Riviera ended up as a film set in the countryside of Lombardy in northern Italy. The book's seaside setting prompted me to use this background of a sunset over Marina, happens to be Port Elgin, Ontario, for part one. But now I'm taking the wintertime scenery from the end of the film as an inspiration for this video's backdrop, with the first snow of the year having fallen recently on the Humber Valley in Toronto. No, it's not northern Italy, but try to picture yourself somewhere there at Christmas time, nevertheless. Finally, before we get started again, a reminder that this video is aimed at people who have seen Call Me By Your Name and want to dive into the story. If you haven't seen the film, this will be pretty much all spoilers. See the film first. So, now that we know where we are, let's throw around a bunch of numbers for a bit to start things off and talk about how you get a novel that took Armie Hammer nearly 7 3/4 hours to read for the audiobook down to a 2-hour, 12-minute movie. And let me suggest that while the passage of time is not unimportant in a novel, readers have total control of how long they want to dwell on any particular passage and how quickly they're going to consume the book overall, time is more consequential in cinema. Why? First, while there's no set time that a film has to be presented in, there is a bracket within which most films run, and that's an hour and a half to 2.5 hours. A film pretty much has to be assured of being a blockbuster to be allowed to go longer than that, and many audiences are already impatient at 2.5 hours if the film's not absolutely bursting with action. Now, not every viewing of a film happens in a cinema anymore, of course. Viewers do have control at home. But it's still more typical to watch whole films in a single sitting than it is to read a book in one. We are simply more casual with books. So, filmmakers have to keep running time in mind far more than novelists do page counts. But filmmakers must also put more care into how effectively the passage of time is portrayed in a film. In Call Me By Your Name, the sense of time is even more important than in the average film, because time ultimately is the villain here. There's no stopping the 6-week time bomb at the end of Call Me By Your Name. That clock is ticking down. So, to make time work here, let's consider 2 easy cuts first. The novel is split into only 4 parts, each too long to be called chapters. The first and second parts detail Elio's tumultuous summer with Oliver at the Perlman's villa. The third takes Elio and Oliver on a trip to Rome. The fourth jumps ahead 15 years, and then another 5 to when Elio and Oliver are 37 and 44 years old. It's all told as a collection of memories by Elio, until that last jump 20 years after their summer together, catching the reader up to where Elio as storyteller is, wondering whether so many years later, if there's something next, could Oliver also want there to be something next? And might Oliver say the words that would make that happen? The book ends with the longing that he will, but gives no definitive clues as to where the story leads next.
Damn you, Elio. Why didn't you wait another couple of days and then tell us what happens next?
Grant, we know that a neatly tied up resolution is no place to end anything true. Not a book that would resemble our lives, anyway. Like with ours, Elio and Oliver's story remains in suspension, not knowing what's coming around the next corner. And that's why we relate so profoundly to Elio and hurt for him as much as we do. His story is the best and worst of our stories. With the filmmakers' resolve to have us feel present and immersed in Elio and Oliver's summer as it unfurls, the jumps ahead in time at the end of the book wouldn't work with the film's rhythm. So the easiest cut to make is to them. Besides, scriptwriter James Ivory knew it would have been impossible for the makeup department to turn 20-year-old Timothy Chalamet into a convincing 37-year-old Elio Perlman. And he also happened to think that those jumps ahead to rake over the ashes of their first love, as he put it, were a bit of a downer. Director Luca Guadagnino agreed, and was thinking the jumps ahead could better be accomplished in a sequel were he to film one in the future anyway. This part of the book takes Armie Hammer 1 hour 10 minutes to read. Some of it has to stay, as part 4 starts with Professor Perlman having his life-altering talk with Elio, and is also where Oliver drops his life-altering news. Those scenes make up the last 18 minutes of the film. So, axing the jumps ahead, another 52 minutes of running time are foregone. Let's back up one section in the book to the next easiest cut. In part 3, Elio and Oliver go on a lengthy visit to Rome where they meet new characters from that city's arts and letters scene with whom they have a bit of an adventure. The anecdote there is fun, but at 1 hour 14 minutes long, its only essential contribution to the story from the first 2 parts of the book is the culminating of Elio and Oliver's love story as they spend time together. And Ivory and Guadagnino knew that they could and should bring their relationship to its climax without bringing in new characters. So they sent the boys off to the nearby university town of Bergamo instead, where Oliver can finish up his work and, almost magically, where Elio can also lead Oliver to the source of the water that creates his spot, the springs where Elio goes to read and which replaces Monet's berm from the book. Elio essentially takes Oliver to the place he considers the wellspring of his soul. And they do that in 8 minutes flat, saving 1 hour 6 minutes. So 1 hour 58 minutes saved from 7 hours 42 minutes of reading time. That leaves us with 5 hours and 44 minutes of book. That's too long for a movie. While a minute of reading time does not equal a minute of movie time 1-to-1, you get the idea. There was still too much material. Cut some characters next? Mafalda's husband Manfredi can go. Poor Mafalda. In the book, Manfredi is ostensibly the family's driver, but he never really drives them anywhere. Time saved, budget saved, pretentiousness saved, no story lost. And the bookseller in B, and the passing author, gone. And because we are not going to Rome, forgotten. Some book fans will tell you, though, that the excising of Vimini was the cruelest cut. A next-door neighbor, the 10-year-old girl is living precariously with leukemia and is the most thoroughly written female character in the novel. She adds heart to it. But complications for a film if closer female characters are left underwritten. Elio's book mother and putative book girlfriend, Marzia, would need to be expanded upon, 1, to make the family unit feel more real, and 2, to better illustrate Elio's generally switched-on libido and newfound lack of concern about the gender of his romantic interest. With their increased role, Mum and Marzia can now bring heart to the film that Vimini did to the book. So, sorry to say, Vimini doesn't survive the move to Lombardy. The effect is to focus the drama in the film into Elio and Oliver's relationship where it needs to be to make the film intimate and compelling. I can't really quantify how much time is saved by paring down the number of characters, but it wouldn't be much, and certainly not in comparison to the major change I want to address next. Possibly the biggest reason why the film takes less time to unfold than the book does comes from how the story is presented in the first place. The book is written in Andre Aciman's practiced Proustian prose. Pretty purple in patches, it's all remembrances of things past, with Elio analyzing every waking moment from those 6 weeks with Oliver, his hormone-filled mood swings coming in waves that not so much follow in a linear narrative as much as they flow in a thematically connected one. Elio constantly lays bare and then questions his capricious whims, his drives and his doubts, his infatuations and his fits of fatalism. To film all of that, you'd have to commit 90% of his racing thoughts to voiceover. But why would you? Film works best in show-don't-tell form. And besides, Guadagnino wants us to feel like we are there for the events, and not that we are looking back 20 years, like in the book. He wants immediacy and intimacy for the audience, not distance. So while Guadagnino and Ivory did toy with the idea for a bit, no narrator gets in between us and what we experience. Narration is best left for YouTube videos, like this one. In the film, we witness the progression of Elio's fascination and obsession with the summer house guest instead of hearing about it. So 5 minutes of Elio's vexed vacillation in the book ends up reduced in the film to 5 seconds of Elio's darting eyes, facial contortions, and expressive movements that betray his heart and mind, something at which, it turns out, Timothée Chalamet is brilliant at. No, Timmy can't convey word for word every self-cross-examination that Aciman wrote out for Elio, but Chalamet's demonstrative body language lays bare Elio's anxious moments, his elated ones, and everything in between, always getting the core of the message across. Ultimately, though, by editing out Elio's internal monologue, the film edits the character of Elio himself. He's less horny, he's less peevish, he's less extreme in every way than book Elio. For example, film Elio doesn't see anything sinister in Anchise, so we don't waste any time in the film questioning Anchise's motivations. Neither does Elio have a romantic interest in, or mind game, going on with Chiara. So she's left more or less to her own devices vis-a-vis Oliver, and is more of an innocent victim in her run-in with the Elio-Oliver Express. Elio is still a roller coaster of mood swings in the film, nevertheless, but without his every thought in evidence, he's been tamed quite a bit, and an Elio with fewer complications can be presented in less time. While some scenes are rewritten and others are invented to fill out other characters, Elio's scene list is pared down to just those that show who he is initially, followed by the ones that best illustrate his character arc and the conditions that bring about the changes. So with everything that's been tossed out and tossed around to get a 7 3/4 hour book down to a 2-hour, 12-minute movie, it's ironic maybe that what we don't have is a film that feels crammed tight and racing from scene to scene. We have one that feels paced like the summer it's set in. Guadagnino wants us to feel the heat and stillness of the air. He wants us to hear the cicadas in the trees and the babbling water in the swimming trough. And he wants us to remember how summers passed in a leisurely way when we were young. To get that feel, the script has to aim for it. Mostly, but not entirely, James Ivory's work. In between the published book and the finished film, there's the script. Both Ivory and Guadagnino have talked about how they conferred on the script as Ivory wrote it up. We know it changed many times, and you can download proof of that. 2 versions of the script are available. The earlier one is 145 scenes long, and the later one is 122. The 145 scene version has several scenes taking place in a different order than they do in the final film, while it also has about 24 scenes that aren't in the film at all. The 122 scene version does have the scenes in the right order, and it still has 2 more scenes than the film does. Quite a bit of the dialogue changed between the 145 scene script and the 122 scene one, and even a lot of what's in it changed or was eliminated when the film was made. Often enough, Guadagnino elected to scrap dialogue when he saw that Chalamet and Hammer were able to get the message across without it. So, what scenes from the scripts did they chop? Timothy Chalamet mentions early in the Call Me By Your Name commentary track that Luca Guadagnino's first cut of the film was 4.25 hours long. When he comments that a scene where they played soccer was cut just after the volleyball scene. A soccer scene? That's a surprise. It's not in either script, but it's just one surprise of many. Too many to talk about in this video, as I've gone on long enough for now. I'll get into the specifics of the script changes in another video that I'm calling You Don't Want to See the 4-hour version, which I'll make at some time in the future. I also want to get to music in the film soon. It has a part in the book, but music's role in the film takes on more significance than normal, as it's not just there to tell you how to feel. At times, it's actually helping to tell the story, replacing some of the narration I mentioned, and in such a gorgeous way. Before I make that video though, next up, I'll be talking about Find Me, the recently released sequel to the book, and I'll consider the implications from it for Elio and Oliver's cinematic future.